The park was unusually still that evening, enveloped in a serenity that felt almost eerie. The soft rustle of leaves and distant chirping of birds were the only sounds that broke the silence. Barron Trump, tall and composed, strolled along a winding path, his hands in his pockets. The tranquility seemed to echo his reserved demeanor, and his Secret Service agents kept their distance, watchful, yet unobtrusive. As Barron neared the grand oak tree he often admired on his walks, a faint, heart-wrenching sob broke through the stillness. He stopped, unsure if he had imagined the sound. But as he took a few cautious steps forward, the crying grew louder, unmistakable in its raw pain. Under the sprawling branches of the oak, he spotted a woman hunched over, her face buried in her hands. She clutched a small object tightly against her chest, her body trembling with each sob. Passers-by glanced at her briefly but hurried along, unwilling to intrude on her visible grief. Barron, however, found himself rooted to the spot. Something about the depth of her sorrow compelled him to act. Ignoring the concerned glances of his agents, he stepped off the path and approached her. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Barron asked gently, his deep voice carrying an unusual softness. The woman flinched at the sound, her tear-streaked face lifting to meet his gaze. For a moment, confusion and sorrow mingled in her expression, as though she couldn't quite process his presence. Recognition flickered in her eyes, but she was too overwhelmed to react. "I didn't mean to bother anyone," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're not bothering anyone," Barron reassured her, his tone calm yet earnest. "Are you okay? Is there something I can do to help?" She hesitated, clutching the object in her hands even tighter. It was a small teddy bear, its fur worn and faded. "It belonged to my son," she said, her voice breaking. He passed away last year." Barron's chest tightened at her words. Without a second thought, he sat down beside her on the grass, ignoring the murmurs of his agents. "I'm so sorry for your loss," he said sincerely. "What was his name?" "Michael," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "He was only 8. Barron didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked at the teddy bear in her hands, imagining the little boy who must have treasured it. "Michael sounds like a special kid," he said softly. The woman nodded, her voice trembling as she began to share memories of her son, his lively imagination, his love for the park, and his dreams of being a superhero. Barron listened intently, his presence a quiet yet profound comfort. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues over the park, Barron offered her a handkerchief. "You're not alone," he said gently, his compassion evident in every word. At that moment, he became more than a passerby. He became a source of solace for a grieving mother, setting the stage for a story that would touch countless lives. Sitting under the shade of the oak tree, Lisa began to open up, her voice fragile yet laced with love as she spoke about her late son, Michael. Barron Trump sat beside her on the grass, his tall frame leaning forward attentively. She held a small, worn teddy bear tightly against her chest, her fingers absent-mindedly running over its faded fur. "This was his favorite place," Lisa said, her voice trembling. "Every Saturday we'd come here. Michael loved running around this tree, climbing it and pretending he was a superhero protecting the world." Her words painted a vivid picture of a lively and imaginative boy, one whose joy and energy seemed to fill every corner of the park. Barron could almost see him, a small figure darting around the oak tree, his laughter echoing through the air. "What was his name?" Barron asked softly, though she had already mentioned it. "Michael," Lisa replied, a bittersweet smile breaking through her tears. "He was only 8, but he had such big dreams." Barron nodded gently, encouraging her to continue. Lisa's hands tightened around the teddy bear, her gaze falling to the ground. "He wanted to be an astronaut," she said, her voice faltering. "He used to talk about building a rocket that could take everyone to the stars. He even made a cape for this teddy bear. He called it Captain Courage." Barron couldn't help but smile faintly at the thought. "He sounds like a remarkable kid," he said. "He was," Lisa said, her voice breaking. Tears began streaming down her face as she recounted the day everything changed. "It was an accident," she whispered. "A car hit him, right in front of our house. I couldn't save him." Her words hung heavy in the air, raw and unfiltered. Barron's chest tightened, his own emotions threatening to surface. He reached into his pocket and handed her a handkerchief. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice filled with quiet sincerity. Lisa took the handkerchief with trembling hands, dabbing at her tear-streaked face. "I keep thinking, if I had been quicker, if I had done something differently." Barron shook his head gently. "It wasn't your fault," he said, his tone firm yet compassionate. "Sometimes, no matter how much we wish we could, we can't control what happens." Lisa nodded, though the pain in her eyes remained. She looked down at the teddy bear again. "Michael used to say this bear was his best friend. He believed Captain Courage could protect him. He gave it a fitting name," Barron said softly. As Lisa continued sharing memories, her words painted a vivid portrait of a boy filled with boundless imagination and love for life. Barron listened intently, his presence a silent anchor. The grief she carried was palpable, yet so too was the love she held for her son. In sharing Michael's story, Lisa began to let some of the weight lift, finding comfort in the understanding and compassion of a stranger who truly cared. As Lisa's grief poured out beneath the sprawling oak tree, Barron Trump remained by her side, his presence steady and comforting. Her pain was overwhelming, her words filled with sorrow as she recounted the tragic loss of her son, Michael. Yet, Barron listened with unwavering attention, his expression marked by quiet empathy. Lisa clutched the small, worn teddy bear, Michael's beloved Captain Courage, as if it were her lifeline. "I don't know how to move on," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Every day feels so empty without him." Barron nodded gently, understanding the weight of her words. "Moving on doesn't mean forgetting," he said after a moment of thought. His voice was calm, carrying a quiet conviction. "It means finding a way to honor Michael's memory while continuing to live your life." Lisa looked at him, her tear-streaked face showing a glimmer of hope amidst her anguish. "How do I do that?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. Barron considered her question carefully. "You start small," he suggested. "Maybe you could do something that Michael loved. Tell his stories, share his dreams, keep his spirit alive by helping others who dream as big as he did." Lisa's hands tightened around the teddy bear as she absorbed his words. "He used to dream about going to the stars," she said softly. "He wanted to build a rocket and take everyone with him." Barron smiled faintly, glancing up at the sky, now painted with hues of orange and pink. "Maybe he's up there now," he said quietly, "watching over you." Her breath hitched, and she looked at him with tears glistening in her eyes. "Do you really think so?" "I do," Barron replied, his tone gentle yet firm. "And I think he'd want you to keep dreaming too. He'd want you to live a life full of love and purpose." The crowd that had slowly gathered around them murmured softly, moved by the heartfelt exchange. Barron's Secret Service agents exchanged uneasy glances, but he remained resolute, focused entirely on Lisa. "You've been so kind," Lisa said after a moment, her voice steadier than before. "I didn't expect anyone to listen." "Sometimes, we just need someone to be there," Barron replied. "You're not alone in this, Lisa, and Michael's story deserves to be heard." For the first time that evening, Lisa's shoulders seemed to ease under the weight of her grief. Barron stood and extended a hand to her, helping her to her feet. "Let's take a walk," he suggested. "It might help." Lisa hesitated but then nodded, clutching the teddy bear tightly as they walked together along the path. Barron's words lingered in her mind, offering a sense of clarity amidst her sorrow. That evening, under the fading light of the setting sun, Barron's compassion gave Lisa something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. His empathy and encouragement planted the seeds for her to turn her pain into purpose, ensuring that Michael's memory would live on in ways that inspired and uplifted others. Barron's lips curved into a gentle smile. "It sounds like he had a big imagination." "He did," Lisa said, her voice growing warmer as she recounted more of Michael's adventures. "He'd talk about building a rocket that could take everyone to the stars. He wanted to be an astronaut. He even drew blueprints for his rocket. Scribbles, really, but he was so proud of them." Barron glanced up at the evening sky, streaked with hues of orange and pink. "Maybe he's up there now," he said softly, "watching over you." Lisa's steps faltered as she turned to look at him, her eyes glistening. "Do you really think so?" "I do," Barron replied with quiet conviction. "And I think he'd want you to keep dreaming too. He'd want you to keep his spirit alive." Lisa exhaled shakily, her grip on the teddy bear loosening slightly. "It's just so hard," she admitted. "Every day feels like a battle to hold on to him, but at the same time, it feels like the world is moving on without him." Barron's voice was steady as he spoke. "Moving on doesn't mean letting go. It means finding a way to carry him with you. Maybe you could start by sharing his stories, his dreams. Let people know the kind of boy he was, and the things he loved." Lisa looked down at the teddy bear, her fingers brushing its faded fur. "You think that would help?" "I think it could," Barron said. "Michael's memory deserves to be shared. It's a way to keep him close and to inspire others with the way he saw the world." As they continued walking, Lisa began to share more about Michael, his love for adventure, his kindness, and the joy he brought to everyone around him. Barron listened intently, his presence a source of comfort. Their connection grew with each shared memory, planting the seeds for Lisa to find healing through Michael's legacy. Lisa sat under the oak tree one afternoon, clutching the teddy bear that had once been her son Michael's treasured companion. It was only a few weeks since her encounter with Barron Trump, but his words had stayed with her. Moving on didn't mean letting go, it meant honoring Michael's memory. Slowly, she began to imagine how she could do that, not just for herself, but for others who needed hope. Her first step was simple yet deeply personal: donating teddy bears to children in hospitals. Inspired by Michael's beloved Captain Courage, Lisa wanted other children to find comfort in something small but meaningful. She reached out to friends and local businesses, explaining her vision. Before long, donations began pouring in: bags of stuffed animals, heartfelt notes, and even offers to help distribute them. Barron, true to his quiet nature, supported Lisa from the sidelines. He used his connections to ensure the initiative reached more hospitals and children in need, but he avoided drawing attention to himself. His involvement was never about recognition. It was about keeping Michael's memory alive. As word of Lisa's efforts spread, a journalist covering a local event stumbled upon her story. Soon, an article appeared online detailing how a grieving mother had transformed her pain into a mission of kindness with the encouragement of an unexpected ally. The article struck a chord with readers, and within days, it went viral. Social media platforms lit up with photos of children clutching their new teddy bears and captions recounting Michael's story. People from around the world began sharing their own acts of kindness inspired by Lisa's journey. One mother wrote, "After reading about Michael, I donated my daughter's favorite books to a local shelter. It felt like the right way to honor her memory. Barron's presence in the story, though understated, became a symbol of compassion. Photos of him sitting with Lisa under the oak tree surfaced, accompanied by captions like, "This is what humanity looks like." Despite the viral attention, Barron continued to support Lisa without seeking the spotlight. Lisa's initiatives grew beyond her initial dream. Inspired by Michael's love of storytelling, she began hosting community events where parents and children could share their favorite memories and dreams. The gatherings often took place under the oak tree, now a symbol of hope and resilience. Families from all walks of life joined these events, contributing toys, stories, and support. A small plaque was even installed near the tree, inscribed with the words, "In memory of Michael, a boy who dreamed big and loved even bigger." As donations increased, Lisa expanded her efforts, establishing a scholarship fund for underprivileged children to pursue their dreams. Barron was the first to contribute, setting an example for others to follow. Their story continued to touch hearts worldwide, inspiring a wave of kindness that seemed unstoppable. Letters and messages poured in from people who had found hope in Michael's story. Lisa often reflected on how it all began, with a simple moment of compassion under an old oak tree. The park that once echoed with Michael's laughter became the heart of Lisa's efforts to honor her son's memory. Inspired by her encounter with Barron Trump and his quiet words of encouragement, Lisa began organizing events that celebrated Michael's boundless imagination and joyful spirit. The first event, a storytelling evening under the oak tree, brought families together to share their dreams and memories. Lisa began the evening by telling tales of Michael's adventures as a superhero, his grand dreams of reaching the stars, and his infectious love for life. Children sat cross-legged in the grass, captivated by her words, while their parents listened with tears in their eyes. Many stayed afterward, sharing their own stories and leaving small tokens, notes, flowers, and even drawings of Michael at the base of the tree. Encouraged by the event's success, Lisa organized more gatherings. A stargazing night became a community favorite, drawing crowds of families eager to learn about astronomy, Michael's favorite subject. Lisa worked tirelessly to make the evening special, even arranging for a telescope to be brought in so children could see the stars up close. As she stood before the crowd, she dedicated the night to Michael. "Michael reminded us to dream big," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "And tonight, as we look up at the stars, let's remember that no dream is too far out of reach." Barron, blending quietly into the crowd, stepped forward when Lisa asked him to say a few words. Though hesitant, he spoke from the heart. "Michael's story has brought us together," he said. "His dreams inspire us to look beyond what's in front of us and believe in something greater. Tonight, let's honor his spirit by continuing to dream, to hope, and to care for one another." The applause that followed was thunderous, but Barron quickly stepped back into the background, his humility shining as brightly as the stars above. As Lisa's initiatives grew, donations poured in from all corners of the community and beyond. With Barron's quiet support and influence, she established a scholarship fund in Michael's name to help underprivileged children pursue their dreams. The launch event for the fund drew a large crowd, including families who had been touched by Lisa's story. "This isn't just about Michael," Lisa said during her speech. "It's about every child who dares to dream big. It's about giving them the chance to reach for the stars, just like Michael wanted to." The fund quickly gained momentum, with Barron making the first contribution. Other donors followed, moved by the story of a boy whose dreams were too bright to fade. Lisa also worked with local artists to create a bronze statue of Michael under the oak tree. The statue depicted Michael holding his beloved Captain Courage teddy bear, his face alight with joy. During the dedication ceremony, Lisa's voice trembled as she spoke. "This tree was Michael's favorite place," she said. "Now it's a place where everyone can come to remember that love and kindness have the power to change the world." Barron, standing nearby, kept his remarks brief. "Michael's story brought us all together," he said. "Let's honor his memory by continuing to support one another and believing in the power of dreams." The story of Michael's life and Lisa's efforts eventually reached the ears of an astronaut preparing for a mission. Touched by the boy's love for space and his dreams of exploring the stars, the astronaut dedicated the mission to Michael's memory. Lisa received the news in a letter, which she shared with Barron. "I'd like to dedicate my next mission to Michael," it read. "His dream will reach the stars, and his spirit will be with us every step of the way." When the day of the launch arrived, Lisa and Barron were invited to witness it firsthand. Standing together at the launch site, Lisa clutched a small replica of Michael's teddy bear, her heart swelling with emotion as the countdown began. As the rocket roared to life and soared into the sky, Lisa felt a profound sense of peace she hadn't known since her son's passing. Barron placed a hand on her shoulder. "He's up there now," he said quietly, just like he dreamed. Tears streamed down Lisa's face, but they were not just tears of grief. They were tears of hope, gratitude, and love. Back home, the park became a hub of activity, its oak tree a symbol of resilience and inspiration. Community programs flourished under Lisa's leadership, from storytelling nights to educational workshops. Families found solace and joy in the initiatives, which were all rooted in Michael's memory. Barron's initial act of kindness had become a catalyst for enduring change. Though he never sought recognition, his quiet compassion continued to inspire everyone who learned of his involvement. Lisa often marveled at how one moment, his decision to sit with her under the oak tree, had blossomed into a movement that touched countless lives. Strangers from across the globe wrote letters and shared their own stories of loss, hope, and kindness. Inspired by Michael's legacy, many started their own initiatives, spreading love and compassion in their communities. Years later, a space agency honored Michael further by naming a star after him. Lisa, joined by Barron, attended the ceremony, standing together under a night sky filled with endless possibilities. "This is only the beginning," Barron told Lisa as they looked up at the starry expanse. "Michael's story will keep growing,